How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Hip Drop Podcast. Lucas and I are back to recap an exciting wild card weekend. That's been the first time we could say that in a while, as wild card weekend in recent years has been pretty mundane. Not the case this time. 4 of the 6 games, very entertaining, very down to the wire. And the divisional round is set on Saturday. We have the Broncos and the Bills, and then the Seahawks and the 49ers. And then on Sunday, we have the Patriots and the Texans, and then capped off by the Bears and the Rams. And we'll preview those 4 games tomorrow, give our picks there. But before we get to everything today, Lucas, how you doing? How you feeling?
I am doing awesome. The Chiefs may not have been behaving themselves, but my number 2 team, the Lightning, are on an 11-game winning streak. So I am
Great.
euphoric right now when it comes to hockey. Football, we'll see who they hire as offensive coordinator of the Chiefs. That is.
Yeah, they haven't even done an interview yet, which is pretty interesting.
And that means they're going to hire Eric Bieniemy. That's
yeah,
going to happen.
yeah. Which I mean, look, the last time their offense was great, Eric Bieniemy was their offensive coordinator. So, but of course, Eric Bieniemy still in the playoffs. His team, the Chicago Bears, is still in it. So he might not be available for a new interview for a while. But
Yep.
we're not going to waste a lot of time. There were 6 games this weekend. Like I said, 4 of them really great games. The last 2, not so much. The game last night between the Chargers and the Steelers, both games were actually close, not entertaining, but close for the most part. And then the Patriots and the Texans pulled away both times. But we'll start in order. We'll start then the opening game of the playoffs on Saturday afternoon. The Rams and the Panthers. The Rams come from behind to win 34-31 and advance the divisional round. They win a playoff game for the 3rd time in the 5-year Matthew Stafford era. And the Panthers, who I don't know about you, Lucas, I fully expected to get blown out. I fully expected to be uncompetitive in this one. Showed a lot of fight. They played really well. Bryce Young, I thought, played well for his standards. Like he had a solid playoff debut. He made some mistakes early, but he played really well in the second half. I'd actually argue he played better than Matthew Stafford did for a good portion of the game. So the Panthers deserve a lot of credit. They have nothing to be ashamed of. They have a team that looks like has a decent future ahead of it. Obviously, they're a couple pieces away. I still don't fully believe in the quarterback, but they're a team that's definitely trending in the right direction, and they came oh so close to winning a playoff game for the first time since when they won the NFC Championship in the 2015 season. But the Rams win. The Rams, Lucas and I's Super Bowl pick, win. They survive. They escape. It wasn't pretty. It actually looked pretty dire at times, but ultimately Matthew Stafford found Colby Parkinson on a great throw and catch in the corner of the end zone to put it away. The Panthers got the ball back with less than a minute left. They did nothing with it, and the Rams hold on. So they go on to play the Chicago Bears on Sunday night. Very fun game, very entertaining game. Matthew Stafford, I thought, was pretty, but really not that good for most of the game, but he came through at the end. He made some very clutch throws. Like I said, Bryce Young, I thought, was impressive for his first playoff start against a team much more talented than his own. But Lucas, I mean, the Rams, you and I have been very high on them this year. They were a little bit on tailspin towards the end of the regular season. They lose that heartbreaker in Seattle. They have that funky game against the Atlanta, in which they had no business losing. They were really kind of in a dogfight against a god-awful Cardinals team in Week 18. They pull away there. So the Rams aren't exactly firing on the cylinders that they were maybe in the middle of the season, but ultimately they won the game, and you never apologize for winning a playoff game, and they move on, and they are 2 games away from getting back to the Super Bowl for the first time in 4 seasons.
Yeah, a win's a win. Stafford, I'm just looking at his PFF grades.
He was not good for most of the game.
His two lowest graded games of the season have come against the Panthers. So
yeah,
when he's playing the Panthers, he's not very good. But when he's playing everyone else, he's perfect, pretty much. So
yeah,
clutch didn't have a very good game. He was pretty good when kept clean, 79 grade, which when you're kept clean isn't that good. But when he was under pressure, he was not good. 5 of 13 for 60 yards and a pick, plus an additional turnover-worthy play. Just not accurate. And on deep pass attempts, he was 1 of 6. There was a drop mixed in there, but
Puka had a drop.
Yeah, just not accurate enough. But in the end, a win's a win. This was a Saturday game, so kind of operating on a short week. But in the end, they won. They'll have a tough test in Chicago. I just don't know what to do with that game. We'll see. I'll sleep on it, and we'll see who I'm going to pick. But both sides of my brain are telling me 2 completely different things. I thought their defense was not ideal, but the Panthers have had a tendency to move the ball. Like Bryce Young is one of the weirdest quarterbacks where if he's on, he's actually a pretty solid quarterback. But like when he's off, like less than useless. Like I know you can say that about a lot, but like
Yeah. Yeah,
well
he's
coached
high variance.
and they have a talented enough like weaponry, nothing special. But Tedder McMillan is going to be a high end number one in this league if he's not already. So they can move the ball, and Bryce Young can't chuck it deep. He was 3 of 5 for 111 yards and two big time throws on five, technically 7 deep pass attempts because 2 of them were called back. But still, very good day for Bryce Young. Not an excellent day, very good. Panthers, they should be proud of themselves. They were 8-9 and they gave my Super Bowl favorite a big fight, but we'll see. We'll see how the Rams play against the Bears because if they come out flat and get blown out, then we'll know whether this game was just a fluke or maybe the Rams were peeking ahead thinking they had this more in the bag.
Yeah, yeah, like you said, it seems like Ajiro Avero, the Panthers defensive coordinator, just has Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay's number. But ultimately Stafford got the job done at the end. Um, but yeah, for the Panthers, like there's nothing to be ashamed of. They probably had the quote best loss of the weekend of any of the 6 teams that went home. So they deserve credit. And this is a typical like get on the plane, survive an advanced game for Los Angeles. And they got the job done. So I don't really have a whole lot to take away other than the Panthers. Look, Jalen Coker had a big game. He had over 100 yards and a touchdown. Like you said, Ted McMillan looks like a future stud in this league if he's not already. So they have a bright future ahead. Depending on Young's development, I still am not a believer. I just think his lows are just too low. But he fought in this game. Bryce Young deserves some credit and has earned himself. I think he's earned a spot as their starter next year for sure. All right, moving on to the Saturday night game, Lucas. This game was probably the craziest game of the weekend. The Bears beat the Packers 31-27. It was 21-3 in favor of the Packers at halftime. It was 21-6 at the start of the fourth quarter, and the Bears really did what they've done for most of this year. They came back and found a way to win. This game was eerily similar to that game in Week 16. Of course, the difference in that game is Jordan Love got knocked out. Where it looked like the Packers had it in the bag, and then the Bears, by some miracle, won. If you're the Packers, on one hand, it's like, look, even if they won this game, they likely weren't getting to the Super Bowl because of their injuries. I think it would have done them in at some point. But you got to be sick. Like, how the hell do you lose this game? They looked like in complete control for the first half. In the second half, they still had a substantial lead, but their offense just went cold. On their first 4 drives of the second half, they gained 9 yards and they went 3 and out. They got 1 first down on 4 drives. And you just could sense the momentum shifting. Even though the Bears weren't doing a lot to capitalize on those opportunities to start off, they threw another interception on 4th down. They, they, had couple of their drives stalled. They had to settle for field goals a couple times, but you could sense like the Packers weren't taking advantage of an opportunity to put them away. Jordan Love, by and large, played really well. He threw for over 300 yards. He threw 4 touchdowns, 3 of them in the first half. He did struggle a bit in the second half, although it looked like the game was firmly over. It was 21-16. The Packers got the ball back and they score a touchdown. Love throws it to Matthew Golden to score the first touchdown of his career. A great play by him. He broke multiple tackles, showed his potential coming out of Texas. And the big story of this game for Green Bay was their special teams, particularly their kicker, Brandon McManus, who really has not had much of a good season this year. He missed a 55-yard field goal at the end of the first half, which looked, that's understandable. Like they were up 21-3. You can understand that, especially in that stadium. But they score a touchdown to go up 27-16. He misses the PAT. And then the Bears score to cut the lead to 27-22. The Packers get the ball back. It looks like they're driving to salt the game away. They stall in the red zone. They take a delay of game out of a timeout, which is just absolutely unfathomable. And they have to settle for a 44-yard field goal, which is very makeable. He completely shanks it. The Bears, Caleb Williams throws a touchdown to DJ Moore to take the lead. The Packers get the ball back with a decent amount of time. But ultimately, the time runs out. They have a 10-second runoff because a player got hurt. Jordan Love threw a desperation pass in the end zone, fell harmlessly to the ground, and the Packers lose. So the Packers are They've now lost the playoffs as the wild card, as the 7 seed, back-to-back seasons, and they completely gagged this one away. And the Bears, like I was shitting on the most of the game, like, oh, this is proof the Bears are frauds. You can't, you're play like crap for 55 minutes and come back late in the fourth quarter. That doesn't work in the playoffs. And lo and behold, it worked in the playoffs. Caleb Williams, really kind of a microcosm of a season. A lot of outstanding plays. He was unbelievable in the fourth quarter of that game. The Bears scored 25 points in the fourth quarter, which is unreal when you really think about it. Williams struggled at times, but he was absolutely nails when he needed to be. That throw on 4th and 8, considering the context, considering that they won the game, I think is one of the best throws in playoff history. That throw he made to Roma Dunze on 4th and 8, because that was basically the game. Like, if they didn't get that, the Packers were pretty much guaranteed to win at that point. There was some speculation that that could be it for Matt LaFleur. It looks like it's not. I understand that. Like, I get why they're bringing him back, but man, like, that's a game for Green Bay where it's going to lead to a long offseason. That's one that's like, we lost to a division rival like that. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, this is a game kind of wish you had your top 3 pass rusher, Micah Parsons, but
Yeah.
tore his ACL in Denver. So when Mert was not able to get that, I think where this game kind of really turned, and I think everyone on the planet would agree, was that 4th and 8 conversion after a false start.
Yeah.
That Williams converted to Roma Dunes. I think it's a Dunes or Dunes. I don't really care. It was a 4th and 8 conversion. Yeah. Dunes, yeah. Brilliant throw by Caleb Williams. Kind of showed like, hey, like, this is why he was picked first overall, was his natural talent that not many players could have made that play. But he did, and the Bears had that quarterback. And that's where I kind of was like, uh-oh. That's where I first got concerned for Green Bay. Like, I know it's 11 points, like, late in the fourth, but that's the type of play that's really deflating because it's easy. It's Captain Obvious. Packers win that game if that ball falls incomplete. Like, and maybe you could argue that the false start was a good thing for Chicago in 2 ways. One, the snap got messed up. You could argue the snap was messed up because of the false start, but like, you could also argue like, hey, that was just a coincidence. But it also just gave the Bears a free timeout. I understand 4th and 8 is harder than 4th and 3, but like, if you're going to gain 4th and 3, you're probably going to get at least like a few yards extra anyways. And there was enough left in the field where the Packers still had to cover a lot of it. So I feel like the extra like 30 seconds to calm down and get your nerves together was worth the 5 yards. Easy to say in hindsight, but if they only got 6 yards, then I look like an idiot. But yeah, Chicago has the magic. Sometimes I'd rather be lucky than good, and Chicago's been very lucky. I know Bears fans are going to disagree, but to win a lot of the games they've won this year, you objectively have to be lucky. Like, that's not to take anything away from Chicago, but that's just a fact. Like, they won how many games this year when down by multiple possessions in the fourth? Like, you can't have that go your way that many times and not be lucky in some capacity. Like, they're lucky that Roma Dunze caught that ball. Like, we've seen key drops this year on plays like that.
Yeah,
he caught it. Like, and that's not like the easiest catch in the world. It's not like the hardest catch either, but like, it's players drop balls like that all the time. So that's a good catch by a Dunes. Credit to Chicago for remaining calm. I think that's where kind of Ben Johnson's making a big difference over Matt Eberflus. Is his team is calm under pressure. Like, this is where I will give Chicago a lot of credit. With all these comeback wins, yes, you're a little lucky, but you're also calm under pressure. Like, it's almost like when you listen to survivalists, like, one thing they'll never do under pressure is panic. Because as soon as you start to panic, bad stuff happens. And like, it almost is never good when you start to panic. So it's good Chicago has a good coach, because one of the most important things a coach can do is keep his team calm and focused under pressure. And the Bears are doing a very good job of that. Green Bay, they lost 5 straight games to end the season. Or was it 6 straight? Or was it was 5 straight. It was 5 straight. Yeah. It was 5. Yep.
One of them was that garbage game against the Vikings. But
yeah.
Like, still.
Count, yeah. But like, yeah, disappointing. This is a theme. Like, this is, again, the third straight season they were the 7 seed. 2nd straight first round exit. I'm a Matt LaFleur guy, so like, I think he's earned another year. It's not really fair after he lost Tucker Kraft and Micah Parsons to season-ending injuries. Like, Tucker Kraft is becoming a superstar, and Micah Parsons is a superstar, so it's not exactly fair to say that like it's all on LaFleur. But at some point, man, like, that's two very similar losses to Chicago in like a month.
Yeah,
like,
less than a month. Yeah,
have some shame. But in the end, Chicago will play the Rams. I am going to pick one of those teams to win. I don't know who that's going to be, but I'm very excited to see that game. The Rams playing in very cold weather. Both teams will be on equal rest, relatively speaking. But I think that game's on Sunday, right? Yeah, it is on Sunday.
It's the last game of the
So,
weekend. Yeah.
yeah, and so 8 days rest. So travel won't be much of a factor for the Rams because they'll have that extra day to make up for traveling from Charlotte back to LA. I'm excited for the game, like I am most games this weekend, but we'll see. I don't think Chicago is capable of winning the Super Bowl, but they're in the divisional round. So if
Yeah, for
you're in the
sure.
divisional round, you're either the number one seed, which means you're guaranteed 2 home games, or you already won a playoff game. So who's to say you can't win 2 to 3 more?
Yeah. And one more thought in Caleb Williams. Like, I think he's too inconsistent to be me to consider him a great quarterback yet. I think he's like a borderline top 10 guy, like maybe like in that 10 to 12 range for me. But when his high end plays are just so impressive. The throws that he makes are just I don't even think Mahomes, Allen, the high end like alien quarterbacks. I've seen Caleb Williams make throws that I haven't even seen like some of the best quarterbacks, most talented quarterbacks that I've ever seen make. He just has that ability. If he can improve his accuracy and his consistency, I think he could be an MVP caliber player for a long time. And I think the Bears' resiliency this year is, like you said, it's a huge credit to Ben Johnson. For them, you never feel like they're out of a game, even when the Packers are up 21-3. Like I'm like the Bears, they've been here before, and it just showed like what good coaching does to a team that had the talent last year but was failed by their coaching, and we're seeing the good results of it. So good for Caleb Williams. He wins the first playoff game of his career, wins his playoff debut. And they get to host the Rams next week, which should be a really good game. So huge in for the Bears. For the Packers, it's a brutal way to end the year. Really, their season realistically ended in Denver, but it just was a continuation. It was like dying a slow death, and we'll see how they are healthy in 2026. All right, going down to the Saturday slate, Lucas. The game that you and I were kind of in the minority of picking because a lot of people had this going the other way. The Buffalo Bills, go down to Duval to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, a Jaguars team that was riding an 8-game winning streak going into the postseason, and a Jaguars team that a lot of people, a non-insignificant number of people, was picking to win the AFC and be in Santa Clara for the Super Bowl. They go one and done. The Bills win the first road playoff game of the Josh Allen era. And it was Josh Allen put the Superman cape on. He was absolutely magnificent in this game. Despite not getting a lot of support from the running game, James Cook was really bottled up by the Jacksonville's defense. Josh Allen was really had to go to do it myself mode. He let a go ahead drive in the fourth quarter in which he threw a touchdown to Dalton Kincaid. The defense gave it back up. Trevor Lawrence threw a touchdown to Travis Etienne to give them the lead. Josh Allen got the ball back with just over 2 minutes, goes down the field, scores. Jacksonville actually got the ball back. They had no timeouts, but they had a good amount of time to kick a game-tying field goal. Of course, Cam Little has made multiple insane field goals this year. Lawrence throws a pick. Probably a pretty ill-advised throw, if I'm being honest. That's probably not the throw you want on the first play of the drive. Tre'Davious White, who had his best game in 5 years at least, tipped the ball in the air. Cole Bishop picks it off, and the Bills win. So, like the Bills or the team that, like I said, I picked them. I've been on them all year. They've had their ups and downs this year, but I've stuck with them because of the quarterback, because of the experience, because of the factor of them knocking on the door so long. So they survive. They win. A huge win for them. Um, and a lot of credit, I give a lot of credit to their defense because their defense, well, they got gashed in the running game at times, really held firm against the Jacksonville offense that was really firing on all cylinders going into the playoffs. Jacksonville and Houston were the two hottest teams going into the postseason. Trevor Lawrence was playing the best football of his career, and he kind of reverted back to some of the inconsistency we saw from him earlier in the season or the last couple of years. Trevor Lawrence did not play particularly well in this game. He did throw 2 touchdowns, but he was inaccurate. He threw 2 bad interceptions, including the game losing one. So Trevor Lawrence was not at his best in this game, which really cost the Jaguars. But Sean McDermott deserves a lot of credit for a really like not that talented defensive personnel with Buffalo holding a red hot offense and well coached offense in check in this game. One more thing I like to add is that Liam Cohen, I think, did a great job this year, obviously, but they went away from the run too much. Most of their success was running the football. They put the ball in Lawrence's hands too much, which is what we talked about in the preview. Like, that's what the Bills wanted, to be a Trevor Lawrence game, and it ultimately ended up costing Jacksonville, and they're going home after going into the playoffs with a lot of momentum and a lot of expectations.
Yeah, Jacksonville should be proud. I don't necessarily buy into the narrative or talking point that we'll see for a lot of people talking about the Jaguars this week, and that, oh, they should be proud. They surpassed expectations.
No, they
So,
should have
like,
won the game. You're at home. Like, you're
exactly
13 and 14. Like,
and I know, and I know those people are gonna say, like, oh, they should be disappointed, but like, no, you should be really fucking disappointed. Like,
yeah,
that's a bummer. Like, everyone was picking you, and I know, like, I picked the Bills, so I expected them to win. So it's like, you could say it's not fair to Jacksonville, but like, just because I picked another team doesn't mean the other team should be disappointed when they lose. Like, doesn't mean they shouldn't be disappointed. Like, they were 13 and 4. Like, they were the hottest team in the NFL going into the playoffs, which kind of proves that, like, how hot you are going into the playoffs or how cold you are doesn't really matter unless, like, you're injured, like the Packers, where, like, okay, the injuries are the
no, for
reason why you're
sure.
playing poorly.
Yeah,
Like, didn't matter whatsoever. Jacksonville had a few drives where they were playing really well, but like, they won like 8 straight games coming into the playoffs, and they were dominating everyone. Doesn't matter. And their defense didn't play well, but like, Josh Allen played well in this game. Like,
oh, yeah,
not played well. He played, I'm not gonna say perfect, but like, that's the best game he played all year. And like, I gotta be honest, like, you could make a serious argument that's the best game he may have played since the 13 seconds game. Like,
yeah,
definitely the best playoff game since the 13 seconds game.
no, for sure.
Like, and they won. That's the reason why, and that's the reason why they won. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he was basically perfect throwing the ball, like 30 of 34 when you factor in drops and hit as he throw and throwaways and stuff like that. Didn't make any mistakes. He was efficient running the ball, nothing magnificent, but he had that big fourth down conversion that I guess was a legal play because there was no flag thrown, despite it looked like him being carried and being lifted off the ground, but there was no flag, so thus it was legal, and had a very favorable spot on one of his scramble attempts, but nonetheless, didn't affect the game. I still think Buffalo is going to win the AFC, but that's just because I'm not really impressed with anyone top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I'm just going to go with the team with the biggest X factor. It might be the AFC. The two best teams in the AFC might be the two wildcard teams that are still alive. We'll talk about one of those teams later, like, and pretty much for the opposite reasons. But credit Buffalo, Jacksonville. A credit to them. Travis Hunter did not play at all the last half season or so. If he can come back and he could be the player they anticipate him being, and that's why they traded a future one for him to move up. If he can be that guy, maybe the Jaguars can be fine. That'll make up for a lot of the regression I expect. But if not, man, Jacksonville might be in trouble. Like, I know it seems like they have a bright future because they have a nice young coach and like they have a quarterback that's playing well. But like, we all thought Washington was going to be a really good team this year.
Yeah.
But like,
they were
like
not.
most of us, like, I saw the cracks. I picked them to win the division only because I believed in the NFC East curse bullshit. But like, if I went with my gut opinion, I would pick them to be like 8 and 9. But like, I don't want Jacksonville to be like Washington, where like, oh, we were one game away from the Super Bowl. We don't need to like rebuild the roster, do anything drastic.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just plug holes and go. I still think Jacksonville like needs to treat the season like they were like 10 and 7 and they were a 7 seed. And like, hey, we need to keep going.
Yeah,
they're not going to have a first round pick, which this is not the worst draft to be missing a pick in the 20s, but we'll see. Buffalo, they have a tough test against Denver. Denver's going to be a very tough matchup for them for a variety of reasons. We'll talk about that tomorrow.
For sure.
Jacksonville, you got to focus on like it was there to be had with Jacksonville. They had a missed fourth down conversion that I didn't hate that attempt, to say the least.
I think it was more on Lawrence than Cohen. It was a good call by Cohen. Lawrence just didn't execute.
The players just got to execute. Like, you could hate the call to go for it, but like, if a receiver drops the ball or a quarterback does something dumb, that's not on the coach. Like, the players on the field have to execute. They missed a field goal. Trevor Lawrence threw a dumb interception early in the game. I thought Jacksonville really could have won this game. I know it's easy to say because they lost by 3 points, but it was there to be had with Jacksonville. But that's football, man. The margins are very thin.
For sure. And the thing with Lawrence, like, I'm not going to kill him because he was playing really good football going into this game. But like that, he is a hot and cold quarterback. He is a quarterback who, when he's on, he's really, really good. He's really talented. You see why he was so thought of coming out of the draft. You can see that. But he still has those moments in him. You're just like, what are you doing? Like, how'd you miss that throw? Why'd you throw that pass? Why are you throwing it down the middle of the field on the first play of the game-winning drive? And the Bills deserve a lot of credit. They got the job done. We'll move to the next game here shortly. But I was really impressed with the Bills defense. Obviously, Josh Allen, like that's what Josh Allen's capable of at his best. Like he is just he's an absolute force multiplier at the quarterback position. And he is a couple wins away from really entering some serious legacy discussions. We'll get to that when we get to it. But the Bills, kind of with a mash unit on defense, really held their own. Tre'Davious White played really well. Cole Bishop, who had a slow start to his career, he had a really good game. So credit to Sean McDermott and that defense for playing their role in this win against an offense that was really clicking on all cylinders going into this one. All right, Lucas, probably I would say the one that has the most to talk about. The 49ers and the Eagles in the late afternoon window. The Niners go into Philadelphia and knock off the defending Super Bowl champions. There will be a new team hoisting the Lombardi Trophy this year. They win 23-19. And immediately after the game, we'll get to the Niners here later on because they deserve worlds of credit for what they've done this year. As much as losing sucks, as much as losing the playoffs stinks, as much as, going one and done a year after winning the Super Bowl is not great, the Eagles losing this game was better for the long-term interest of the franchise, in my opinion. And you agreed with me based on what we were discussing, because today, the aftermath, as expected, they fired Kevin Patullo, their offensive coordinator, which, you hate to see somebody lose their job, but it was a justified firing because their offense really was the reason why they weren't good enough this year, why they didn't repeat. And it reared its head in this game. And the most frustrating part about the Eagles this year is that their offense had drives where they looked really good, where they would just go right down the field and look as if the defense wasn't there. And we saw that in the first half. In the first half, they were fine offensively. They scored 13 points in the first half. Hurts played well in the first half. They moved the ball. And then the second half came, and then they just went into their shell. They went into the prevent offense. Their play calls made no sense. Hurts was hesitant to throw any pass that would risk an interception, which was a problem with him all year. And it ultimately ended up costing them. It's what they did against the Bills in their last meaningful regular season game, and they got away with it because Allen missed that throw on the 2-point conversion. They didn't get away with it this time. And we'll see who the new offensive coordinator is. Brian Daboll's been a rumor. Cliff Kingsbury's, there's been some rumblings. We'll see who they bring in. But the Kevin Patullo experience was a waste. It was a questionable hire from the get-go because promoting from within, it's just kind of I don't know how good of a process this is. Obviously, with them winning the Super Bowl last year, like it was later, like the candidates were mostly gone at that point. So I understand it from that perspective. But a very frustrating, disappointing season for the Eagles. And the sentiment that I saw from a lot of Eagles fans on Twitter is like, yeah, they're disappointed they lost, but they're kind of relieved that their season's over just because watching their offense was just so frustrating, especially given like the pieces they have, with those two receivers. And AJ Brown did not do himself many favors in this game. He sucked in this game. Saquon Barkley, a 1,000-yard rusher, Dallas Goedert, who's a Pro Bowl caliber tight end, and Jalen Hurts, who at times, at various points throughout his career, has played like a top 10 quarterback. He didn't this year, but he has at times, and their offense it was just not good. And that's the reality of the situation. And it's why they're not repeating.
Yep. I jumped off the Eagles bandwagon like 6 weeks ago, and I tentatively jumped back on
after the Bills game.
My initial instincts were right. Like, I didn't think this team was like 2023 collapsed level. Like they put up a better effort than the team 2 years ago did, but the cracks were there. Yeah. And the issues might be deeper for Philadelphia than just the play caller, but Kevin Patullo's gone. We'll see who they hire. Let's hope the entire NFL hope it's not Mike McDaniel.
Oh, God almighty.
We will see.
We grab a water real quick. Keep rambling.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be Mike McDaniel because it seems like McDaniel and Vic Fangio don't get along, but maybe if they are colleagues and not one working for the other, that might be okay. But Philadelphia, I don't think they need to make a lot of drastic changes outside of coaching. They might, other than maybe moving on from AJ Brown. Like, I still think the roster is good enough. Just maintain depth. Maybe get rid of AJ Brown and draft another receiver and just hope that works. And then just hope the play caller is good enough. I don't really see the need to do anything super duper drastic, like blowing it up. But I'm not Howie Roseman. He's smarter than me. San Francisco, give him full credit. Like,
Yeah, we'll get to
I
them later on. We're not. This is not just the Eagles. We'll talk about the Niners. Yeah.
okay, if we're just okay, I won't talk about the Niners. We'll stick with Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts, I would have tentatively had him as the fifth best quarterback in football entering the year, only because I was uh, principled about, hey, he's a winner, and like that's what I value. But like, man, it made it really hard to defend it this year. Other than the Vikings game in Week 1 against the Cowboys, like he was like not good this year.
No,
Like
it wasn't.
flat out like bad. Like he was perfect against the Vikings, really, 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 really good against the Cowboys, especially running the ball. But other than that, like, like his highest graded PFF game outside of the two I mentioned was the Broncos game. Good, okay, they lost, but he had a good stat line. And then the Raiders game, which he threw the ball 15 times. So like,
Yeah, I mean,
whatever, who cares? Not impressed with him. I think he's like, I think if I had to be honest, and I'm not giving in bias to his playoff performances, which are the minority because most of the time he's playing in the regular season, mostly of his regular season, I'd probably put him somewhere in like the 12 to 16 range for best quarterbacks. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. I mean, he played like an MVP in 2023, missed a couple games, or 2022, played like an MVP for most of the year. 2023, he was strong to start and then just collapsed down the stretch, just like the team did. But I just don't know what to do with him, man. Like, I know Eagles fans who like hate him, and they hated him in the summer, like after he won Super Bowl MVP. Like, literally wanted Tanner McKee starting. Like, I have a buddy who like would post on a story every other week, like, please start Tanner McKee, and that was like starting like 6 months ago. Like, I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
Like in August, maybe he was cooking something. Like he was
Maybe.
cooking with gas.
Tanner McKee
We'll
didn't
see.
look too good against the Commanders. I mean, like, but like,
No, I'm not.
yeah,
Again, I'm goofing around a little bit, but I don't think Nick Sirianni deserves to be fired. I still think he's overrated, but his team came out firing in this game. The offense just didn't do its job. The defense just got beat by a good coordinator, like, or a good play caller in Kyle Shanahan.
yeah. We'll get
Like,
to Shanahan here because he's
the defense
amazing.
the defense wasn't fantastic in this game by any means. It wasn't their best performance. It was their lowest graded PFF performance of the season. Oh no, wait, I'm looking at the wrong year. It wasn't their worst performance by any standards. It was their third lowest graded performance of the season, but definitely not their worst. But when I said in the preview, like, I picked the Eagles, but if they were going to win this game, Kyle Shanahan had to come out firing, and he did. We'll talk about the 49ers shortly if you want to transition now, because I have nothing else to say about it.
Yeah, well, one more thought on Hurts. Like, yeah, just the box score says it was a fine year. He set his career high in touchdown passes. Touchdown interception ratio with him is usually really good. Pass rating of 98, but he didn't pass the eye test, just flatly. Like I said, I think like anywhere from like 11 to 15 is a fair range for him. He's really good on his good days, but on his bad days, it's just so underwhelming. And he needs to bounce back next year. And he's done it before. Like, he did it from 2023 to 2024. So we'll see what's in store for them. Obviously, they're going to make some changes at the coordinator position. But to the 49ers here, let's talk about the team that actually won the game. What a story. What a team this is. This is a team that, when healthy, I think is one of the best rosters in the league. And they're not remotely healthy. George Kittle in this game, their future Hall of Fame tight end, tears his Achilles. And when that happened, I'm like, oh, this is over. It's too much to overcome. The Eagles are going to win and move on. Valiant effort to the Niners, and it wasn't too much to overcome. Defensively, obviously, Nick Bosa's been out since week 3. Fred Warner out for most of the year. Now, if they beat Seattle on Saturday, he'll be back for the NFC Championship game against either Chicago or the Rams. So that should be interesting. But, their superstar linebacker out for most of the year. They lose. Ricky Pearsall didn't play in this game. Just so many injuries. Their only star who's been healthy for the majority of the season is Christian McCaffrey. And they just find ways to get it done, which is a testament to their coaching staff. I think the 49ers, not talking historically, because we're not talking legacy-wise, right now, have the best coaching staff in the NFL. They have the best. This is not recency bias. This is just what I've seen all year. This is body of work of the last handful of years. I think Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh, with what they've done this season, they're the best 1-2 coach coordinator combo in the league. What Robert Saleh, I know it's an Eagles offense that's been struggling this year, but what he did with that defense, I got to be honest with you, I still probably can't name their 11 starters off the top of my head. Yet Eric Kendricks was starting at linebacker. Eric Kendricks was good a decade ago, like a former Minnesota Viking, like guys I've never heard of, and they're just hanging in there. They gave up 19 points in this game. They gave up 13 points, even though they lost. They gave up 13 points to the 1-seed Seahawks last time. It's just unbelievable what they've been able to do. And Shanahan, I mean, he's out there with Brock Purdy, who was clutch in this game, showed a lot of toughness in this game, but didn't have a great game. He threw 2 bad interceptions, but ultimately got the job done at the end. And they overcame that. You have Demarcus Robinson, Chiefs legend, going over 100 yards in a playoff game against a really, really good secondary. You have Jawan Jennings catching passes and throwing touchdowns. You have Kyle Juszczyk, the fullback, catching meaningful passes on gotta have it downs. What they did in this game was just absolutely incredible. I don't know how long it's gonna last. Logic says at some point this is gonna run out. Like, it's too much to overcome. But I'm done doubting Shanahan and Saleh. And one thing to note before we make our picks, every year Kyle Shanahan has made the playoffs as the 49ers head coach, they've gone to at least the NFC Championship game. They've never been eliminated before the NFC Championship game. So that's one thing to note. I think he's easily going to be, in my opinion, he's coach of the year. That was incredible. Them going into Philadelphia and winning that football game with the cast, with the personnel that they had on the field, really on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, anyone who says Kyle Shanahan needs to be fired or isn't a top 3 coach in the NFL, I really need to evaluate their mental health. It's like the 3 best coaches in the NFL are him, Sean McVay, and Andy Reid. Just off legacy. Those are probably the top
Andy
3
gets
guys.
one more year. Andy gets one more year.
Yeah,
If he stinks again
based
next year, I'm taking him out. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm just super impressed. I thought the Niners were an easy over 10.5 wins. I think that was their over under, and people thought that was high. I was like, not really. They have an easy schedule and they have a really good roster. Turns out a lot of that really good roster is not here anymore because George Kittle is now gone, but he still played most of the year. Fred Warner's out, Nick Bosa's out. Brandon Ayuk I don't even know what Brandon Ayuk's doing. I don't know what.
I don't know if he exists anymore. I don't think the Niners know what he's doing.
I don't think he's dead or alive. I just think he's a name. Okay. But I thought this is impressive. I said coming into the game, if the Niners win this game, Kyle Shanahan has to have a great game calling plays, not a good game, not a solid game. He has to have a great day, and he did. Demarcus Robinson started the game with one of the more bizarre, long passes you'll ever see, longest catches and throws, or bizarre, not longest, but one of the more bizarre catches and throws you'll ever see. Catches and throw and catch, or throw on the yak. Anyone who I'm having a stroke right now. What the fuck am I talking about?
Yeah, get it together. Get it together.
Get it together. I'm still trying to process what I was looking at with Demarcus Robinson. Granted, I shouldn't be processing. I'm a Chiefs fan. I've seen him run a lot of times. Really weird, yak on that play. I feel like he could have scored, if he was just a little bit smarter. But he got a long play. The Niners got a touchdown. Jawan Jennings made that great throw to Christian McCaffrey. The Niners were just the more clutch team in this game. They just were. The Eagles kept up a good fight till the very end for the most part, but San Francisco got the key stop late in the game, not the Eagles. So that's why they won. And good news for San Francisco is every team remaining in the NFC playoff field, they've beaten this year. So the Bears and the Rams, they've beaten both those teams, and they beat Seattle. And I know Seattle just beat them at home 2 weeks ago, but it's the playoffs. Every game is a game 7. You don't know what's going to happen. We'll see who I pick, but I'm not going to count out either team in that game. That's not I think this spread's 7 or 7.5.
Yeah,
I'm no matter what, I'm gonna take the Niners to cover a touchdown. I think that's pretty ridiculous, but maybe with no George Kittle, like that might be the difference between a close loss and a blowout loss or even a win. But yeah, the Eagles, not much to say. Niners, I think right now you could say this is a successful season. Like Kyle Shanahan should be coach of the year. If he's not, he's top 2 to 3 at the very, very least. Like you could argue Liam Cohen's coach of the year, but like Kyle Shanahan, if he's not in your top 3, I got a lot of questions.
Mike
We'll
McDonald
see
is
if
an
Robert.
argument. Mike
Yeah,
McDonald is
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, he was the other one. We'll see if Robert Saleh's back next year, but San Francisco must really want to play in the Super Bowl this year, like because it's in their home stadium and they're playing extra
Yeah.
motivated. But they're really shorthanded. Their underlying numbers were very, very weak for this game, surprisingly. But they won. Nobody's. It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. I'm really impressed with them, but I have questions whether they can keep it up. But we've
We'll
been
see.
saying about we've been saying about them for 3 months. Like it seems like the wheels were close to falling off, but they haven't so far. So
Yeah. And obviously they faced a tough test. And look, they beat Seattle, but that was week 1. I mean, and like they were healthy in that game.
yeah,
And of course they lose. It was a close game, but they only put up 3 points in that game. So we'll see if it's any different. I anticipate them to play better offensively in this one. But yeah, like this Niners season is one of the great coaching. I honestly think if they were healthy, they'd be like the runaway favorites to win the whole thing. And what they've done has just been unbelievable. One of the great coaching performances that I've seen in quite some time by Shanahan, and Robert Saleh deserves a lot of credit as well. I think he'll probably get another chance as a head coach at some point. We'll see if it's next year or in 2027. But what he's done with a very very I hate to say untalented because they're NFL players, but like relative like to typical NFL defenses you see in the playoffs, less than talented unit has been incredible all year. All right. So the Niners move on. The Eagles, after winning the Lombardi, they go home and they have some things to figure out. Howie Roseman's got some work to do if they want to get back to it in 2026. So we'll see how that goes. All right, the Sunday night game, Lucas, and this is when the kind of the entertainment factor went out the window. The New England Patriots, they win their first playoff game since Super Bowl 53. They defeat the Los Angeles Chargers 16-3. Yes, the Chargers flew from Los Angeles to Foxborough, Massachusetts to kick a field goal. Did you see the Steelers' offensive performance last night? That would have been enough to beat the Chargers in this game. They score 3 measly points in a playoff game. We'll get to the Chargers and Justin Herbert here later on. We'll start with the Pats, who won. Weird game for New England because Drake Maye, I thought by and large played poorly by his standards. The first half, especially. His passer rating in the first half was 34. He had 2 turnovers. He threw an interception early, and then he lost a fumble as well. But in the second half, it looked like he started to settle in a little bit. He used his legs really well. And the Chargers defense is really tough. Jesse Minter is getting head coaching interviews for a reason. He's a really good defensive coordinator, and they made it difficult for him. They made it more difficult for him throughout the season. And the knock on Drake Maye this season is the schedule because he played, let's be honest, a lot of cream puffs this year, a lot of bad teams. And the Chargers, while not a great team, are a really good defense and a really well coached defense. And they made life difficult for him in this one. They had no touchdowns going into the fourth quarter. And then he threw that absolute dime to Hunter Henry, former Charger, for the touchdown, which really ultimately ended up putting the nail in LA's coffin. And he gets his first playoff win, and they're going to be back home against Houston. We'll get to the Texans here later on. So Drake Maye, look, an uneven performance, not a great game by him. Really kind of got helped out by his defense. But you could see him as the game went on, he was getting more comfortable. He was settling in against that a really tough and well-coached defense. And ultimately, when your defense gives up 3 points, that's enough to win. And New England's defense was excellent in this one. Now, part of that was bad offense by the Chargers. Mike Vrabel and Zach Kerr had a great game plan. They absolutely annihilated Justin Herbert in the fourth quarter of this game. They took Ladd McConkey out of the game completely. They stopped the run well. Like, they really didn't allow the Chargers to do anything. The most impressive sequence was when Maye threw that early interception and the Chargers got the ball in basically the red zone. 4 plays, basically no yards, and they get no points out of it. That's really good resiliency by a New England defense that really does not have a lot of big names on it, but similar to San Francisco, they know what to do, they know their roles, and they've played it really well this year, which is why they're moving on, which is why they're 15-3 this season, and they've lost just 1 game since September. So New England deserves a lot of credit. They move on. I picked them to win. I would have been really surprised if they lost this game. This game, honest to God, Lucas, went very similar to how I predicted. I thought, given how good and well coached the Chargers defense is, New England wouldn't steamroll in this game, but they would do enough to pull away, and that's ultimately what happened.
Yeah, I picked the Patriots to win this game. I didn't think they were ever really in danger of losing unless Justin Herbert just went off completely, and the opposite of that happened. Like Justin Herbert, I think I feel very comfortable in saying this with no exaggeration. It's been multiple nights. That was the worst game he's ever played in the NFL. Like not just
He
the
was
worst
horrible.
playoff game, not just the worst game in a like big moment or against a good team. He was horrible in that game, and a lot of people are going to blame his offensive line. Chris Collinsworth said it. His offensive line wasn't good in that game, but like it wasn't a disaster. Like I think
No.
he flat out said he was going in on Herbert like towards the end.
Yeah, he
Like he was,
basically says like another playoff disaster for Herbert. And that wasn't exactly wording, but like he basically said
yeah,
the playoffs have
yeah,
been a
he was like
nightmare for Justin Herbert. And we'll get to Herbert here later on, but like he wasn't wrong. And
yeah, like credit to the Patriots. Drake Maye did not play very well at the beginning, but he turned it on. That's all that matters. And they won 16-3. I feel like they could have scored more if they needed to, but like I
Mhm.
think they got to a point where like the Chargers couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like they just couldn't do. They rushed for 30 yards on 12 rushing attempts, factoring out Herbert's scrambles. Like that's nothing. Like you might as well rush for 0 yards if you're going to rush for 30 on 12 attempts. Like that's pathetic. Credit to New England for stopping the run. It was a two-team effort. It wasn't just the defensive line. The secondary did a very good job plugging holes, making sure no one escaped. Drake Maye played very well. Very balanced effort on offense for the Patriots, despite scoring 16 points. I didn't feel like the passing game carried them or the rushing offense, but
Mhm.
I felt like the Patriots knew for most of that game, like they weren't in danger of losing, like despite it being close for a lot of the time. And so like they just played very conservative, but like very balanced day. Josh McDaniels had a nice night. Drake Maye started off pretty bad, but then turned it on with pretty much the game sealing touchdown to Hunter Henry on that beautiful dime. And that's why New England's playing the divisional round. Like I didn't think they were in danger of losing this game, but like that doesn't mean they couldn't lose it. And it looked like maybe at the beginning that if the Chargers offense figured it out, it could get hairy for New England, but that didn't happen. And the Patriots eventually turned it on. They have a home game coming up against another bad offense. We'll see if the Patriots can do that. I'll move on to the Chargers. I'm going to go in on Justin Herbert.
I was
Big
going to do
fan.
that
Like,
first, but you can go as well.
I'll do it. Like, and then you can go, and then we can talk about the last game. I'm a Justin Herbert guy to an extent. It's getting to a point where like there needs to be an intervention with the Herbert Glazers that like always blame everything else, like all of his issues and on everyone else. Like it's his offensive line, it's his weapon, it's coaching. Like I understand he was awful in this game. Like even when you remove all that stuff, like I
Mhm.
remember there were a couple like online analysts who are like neutral, don't have anything for or against the Chargers, who were like going in on Herbert. Like I think Theo Ash like flat out said like the tape was worse than it looked like. There were guys open in that game. I know the PFF says he was under pressure on 57% of his dropbacks, but I think a lot of that had to do with like towards the end of the game where like they knew he was going to be throwing the ball and like so it kind of inflated the numbers because his pass blocking grades in front of him weren't that bad. Like not
Mhm.
great by any means, but like not that bad. Like Collinsworth flat out said it like pockets have been clean today, and then 1 second later, like the pocket collapsed like almost immediately for like one of the worst pass protection reps I've ever seen by an offensive line. Herbert, even when he wasn't under pressure, he was pathetic in this game. Like I can handle it a little bit better if you're good when kept clean, but then under pressure, maybe you have an off night. That happens to the best of them. When kept clean in this game, he was 11 of 17 for 85 yards. Yeah, there were 3 drops, but 4 really bad misses when kept clean. So his overall grade when clean, when factoring out the bad reps by the offensive line, on a 2.89 time to throw, which when you're kept clean, 2.9 seconds is a lifetime. Like, if you can guarantee Mahomes or Josh Allen or Joe Burrow or Lamar had 2.9 seconds to throw the ball and have face no pressure, like you might say they're going to score 50 points in that game. That's insane. He had a
Mhm.
44 PFF grade when kept clean on a time to throw of 2.9. That's sad. Like that's not pathetic. It's sad. And then when he was under pressure, he was a tire fire. He had I think it was 3 fumbles, or he had 2 fumbles and no, he had 3 fumbles when under pressure in this game. Like, you can't have that. Like, as a quarterback, as a superstar, I may give you one. You get one fumble a game. You can't fumble the ball 3 times, brother. Like, that can't happen. I understand, like, you're gonna get hit, but like, when you're a quarterback, you touch the ball every play. It has to be safe. You can't fumble 3 times. Like, and I know fumbles are the same as turnover-worthy plays or interceptions, but like, fumbles are dangerous. Like, and they're much more preventable, because if you know you're going to get hit, just throw the ball away or tuck it. Like,
Mm,
you can't put yourself in that position to get hit and put yourself in the position of a fumble. Like, I think Herbert fans gotta like get a reality check. Like,
absolutely.
he's now, what's the biggest game he's ever won in the NFL? Week 1 against
It's a
the
good
Chiefs. Like,
question. That's a genuinely good question. Um, yeah, probably one of the wins against the Chiefs. I don't know. I don't know. And are you still, can I go now? Because I don't want to make
yeah,
this a
I'm
bash.
done.
Just
I'm done.
yeah.
I'm done. Yeah, I'm done.
So
Yeah.
Justin Herbert's playoff resume. He's been in the league 6 years, made the playoffs 6 times, blowing a 27-0 lead to Jacksonville in 2022. They scored 3 points in the second half of that game, throwing 4 interceptions against the Texans last year in the playoffs. A Texans defense that was very good, not as good as they are this year, but a very good defense. But still, they lost 33-12. He throws 4 picks in that game. Awful, awful performance. And then scoring 3 points against New England. And his numbers in this game, he threw for 159 yards, obviously 0 touchdowns, pass rating of 74. That's kind. The box score is honestly kind to how he performed. He had 93 yards going into the fourth quarter. Look, Justin Herbert is a very good quarterback. There's too much good play, too much body of work of his career to say he's not good. He is a good quarterback. And in the past, I was the guy who says, like, he's top 5. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. You don't understand. He carries the Chargers, and maybe he does carry the Chargers offense to some extent, but he's not a great quarterback. I've given up. I've waved the white flag. He is not an elite quarterback. He's probably like the 9th best quarterback in the league. He's in that 9-10 range for me. I take Mahomes, I take Allen, I take Lamar, I take Burrow, I take Maye, Stafford. I would take Dak. I think Dak Prescott's a better quarterback than Justin Herbert is. There's 7. Um, so like maybe he's 8th. I am trying to think of anybody else. He's in like that 8 to 10 range. You can maybe argue a guy like Caleb Williams if he reaches his ceiling. I don't know if he's there yet, but maybe if he reaches his ceiling. Jaden Daniels when he's healthy. Jaden Daniels has accomplished more in his career than Justin Herbert has. He's basically played 1 season and he's accomplished more. Like Justin Herbert, like the Patriots defense is good. That's not a great defense. Like that's not the Texans defense. That's not the Seahawks defense. It's a good
No. Yeah.
defense. It's a defense that you should score more than 3 points against. And this game was close. It was there for the take. New England's offense did nothing for most of the game. Like he had so many chances to go and have a moment, and he couldn't do it. And look, it's not all on him. The offensive line was horrible, especially late. It wasn't bad early on. It was very bad late. He didn't get a lot of help from his receivers. Keenan Allen dropped a pass. I get all that. But if you were a great quarterback, you need to overcome something, and he just doesn't overcome it enough in the big spots. I didn't expect the Chargers to win. I also didn't expect them to score 3 points. Look, he's a franchise quarterback. He's a good player, very good player, but he's not great. And like that I think that kind of solidified it for me. He's got to really just like accomplish more, and he's got to win some big games, and he just hasn't done it. He hasn't done it yet, and we're going into year 7. So that's the reality for the Chargers. Of course, they fired Greg Roman, their offensive coordinator. That's understandable. Like I just think Roman is kind of outdated as a play caller. And they go into an offseason to where yeah, like we had a fine year. We won 11 games, but we were the 7th seed and scored 3 points in a wild card. Who cares? What was accomplished? Not a whole lot. So Chargers have a lot of questions to answer to see if they can actually do something meaningful in the postseason. All right, let's move on to the final game of Wild Card Weekend, and really an end of an era for two the losing coach quarterback combination in this game. I feel like a fool for picking the Steelers to win. I should have known better. The Houston Texans beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 30-6. A game that was actually closer. I think the game was a little closer than the final score. It was 7-6 going into the fourth quarter. Miami Fairbairn kicked a 51-yard field goal to make it 10-6. Pittsburgh got the ball back with a chance to take the lead, and then Aaron Rodgers just gets absolutely destroyed. Sheldon Rankins picks up the loose ball, runs it back for a touchdown, and that was the end. That fumble six by the Texans in the fourth quarter was really what did Pittsburgh in. They got one more drive. They didn't do anything with it. And then Houston milked the clock away. They score a touchdown with Woody Marks. And that was basically all she wrote. Rodgers' potential last pass of his NFL career was a pick six. It was garbage time, so it wasn't like it was a consequential play or anything. So the Texans win. We'll start with the Texans, then we'll talk about Rodgers and Tomlin here after this. The Texans defense, I think, is the best unit left in the postseason. This is not hyperbole, this is not over exaggeration. I think you can make a real argument. This is the best defense since the 2015 Broncos. This defense, like Aaron Rodgers, this game was obviously not good. Like he was bad, but there are a lot of plays where he really didn't have anything to do because the Steelers' offensive line, which was good this year, was a good offensive line this year. The pockets were just collapsed so quickly. He was under pressure. The receivers were not open against this Texans' outstanding secondary. The Steelers' quick passing game, which was so effective all season, the Texans were all over it. They couldn't do anything with it. They didn't run the ball particularly well. They were in third and longs all night. All night they were in third and longs, where third and long against the Texans defense is basically death. And I think the biggest missed opportunity for the Steelers in this game was when DK Metcalf dropped that pass. The Steelers, unlike most Steelers playoff games, it wasn't a blowout from the get-go. This wasn't like last year against Baltimore where they were down 21-0 with Russell Wilson, or when they were down 21-0 in Buffalo with Mason Rudolph, or Big Ben's last game against our team where they were down, I think it was like 42-7 or something, and then they scored some garbage time points. This game was close. It was competitive. I felt like they maybe had a shot to win a low-scoring, ugly game, which was what I predicted. Ultimately, it was not to be. And the Texans defense really carries a pretty lackluster offensive performance for the Texans, where it was a weird offensive performance for the Texans from the standpoint that they moved the ball. Like they were really good on third down, but CJ Stroud really had a bad game. He had 3 turnovers. He had 2 lost fumbles. He threw a really questionable interception in the red zone, but ultimately ended up not mattering because Houston's defense is so good against a Pittsburgh offense that is very limited, really a pop gun offense, and they just annihilated them. So the Texans move on. So Lucas, like, how good is this Texans defense? Is this Texans defense good enough to carry an offense that, let's be honest, is not great to Santa Clara?
I think it's good enough to take them to the Super Bowl. The thing is, the problem is they've never won a divisional round playoff game in their lifetime.
Yeah, they've never been to a conference championship.
Was last night the first time they've ever won a road playoff game, or was
it
the
was?
First time in,
it was their first road playoff win in franchise history.
Which that's insane to think about. Like, so let's see if they can win another one in Foxborough. But I think in the AFC, it's just about having the elite X factor. Like, and I think of the 4 teams remaining, 3 of them I think have an elite X factor. With the only team that I don't think has an X factor is the team that didn't play in the wild card weekend, and that their X factor might just be they get to play at home. They're guaranteed to play.
Yeah.
And in Denver, like the Bills have Josh Allen, Patriots have Drake Maye and Mike Vrabel. The Texans have that defense. Like, I understand they were only up 7-6 at one point, but like they were just outplaying them. The Texans were just clearly
they were. Team. Pittsburgh was lucky to be close for most of the game.
Yeah, it looked like CJ Stroud was taking a dive. Like, that was insane. Like, he fumbled twice on the same play, and he bounced back. He made a handful of like big time throws down the field to like make his performance look better than maybe it was. But it sucks for the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers because he was 0 for 5 on deep balls, but like 2 of them were drops. Like, DK Metcalf left a lot of yards on the field in that game. That trade is looking like a mistake. Like, looks like the Steelers should have just kept George Pickens. I understand maybe they got annoyed with him, but like should have just kept him and then maybe just paid him and then just kept the draft pick they paid for Metcalf. Like, and I know they got a pick back for Pickens, but they were better off probably just keeping him. But what do I know? Aaron Rodgers, disappointing ending to what might end up being his career. We'll see. Like,
Mhm.
if it is his career, thanks for the memories, but really, really disappointing. He's going to probably end his career with a losing playoff record, which is pretty sad because
No, he's
it started
500.
off.
He's
I
500.
thought he
He's
was
11
below.
and 11. He's 11 and
Okay,
11.
Aaron Rodgers. Okay, I think the tweet I read was maybe he is no longer above 500. That's the way I read it.
Yeah, he's
Okay,
500 on the nose.
gotcha. Okay, gotcha. My bad. Yeah, in we'll talk. I don't know if you want to talk about Mike Tomlin, but
We'll
that
talk about both he
story.
and Rodgers. Yeah.
Yeah, so like Mike Tomlin, like it was time to go. Like
Hmm.
weird exit because like he technically stepped down, which if you don't know if there's a difference, like I understand like okay, you fired versus leaving on your own accord. There is a functional difference in the NFL where the Steelers now technically still retain his rights through the conclusion of his contract. So if he wants to join another team, like they'll have to be his rights will have to be traded, or the Steelers will have to like mercifully like just let him go and like hey we're not going to hold you hostage, keep you for a draft pick because I don't know when his contract was set to expire, but I don't even know if he's going to take a job this year. Like, I think my gut
Hmm.
instinct tells me he's going to sit out this year, and then the Bucks give Todd Bowles another chance, and if it's another disappointing ending, there you go.
Yeah.
Because I actually sit next to a guy in my 9 to 5 who's from Germany, but he roots for the Bucks just because he visited Tampa one time and he just started following them. He was actually at that Panthers Bucks game in Week 18, so I was kind of like,
Yeah.
hey, kind of a weird moment. He's like, yeah, didn't end up making the playoffs, of course, but I flat out just told him like, I think there's a 5% chance that they fire Todd Bowles within a couple days and they hire Mike Tomlin. But given how Tomlin's still under contract, like maybe they wait another year, give Bowles one more opportunity to make a deep playoff
Hmm.
run. And then if that
Yeah.
doesn't happen, they'll bring in Tomlin. I think that makes sense because that's where
Yeah.
Tomlin was before the Steelers and the Glazer family. If you listen to Chris Sims, like adores him. Like I think that's one of those situations where like I don't think they would even have to do a second interview. Like I don't know if the Rooney Rule requires now a second interview of a person of color, but that just might be a one interview opening. Like if they fire Todd Bowles, just bring in Mike Tomlin immediately because I think the Glazer family is like already sold on him, and I think that'd be
Hmm.
a good fit. Mike Tomlin might just be a slightly better version of Todd Bowles, like defensive minded, like disappointing playoff tenures, like it seems like they had a good start, like or Todd Bowles, if you count as defensive coordinator, had a good start in Tampa, but really mediocre results despite the talent or whatever. But like it seems like if you just want to get Todd Bowles, but like upgrade, you go with Mike Tomlin. So we'll see. I think Mike Tomlin might do really well in the booth, so I might be rooting
Hmm.
for him to like stay and like do TV for a year. That might be pretty
So Bill
entertaining.
Cowher did. Bill Cowher never went back to coaching after leaving. So
Yeah,
his predecessor.
we'll see. We'll see. Aaron Rodgers, like I'm not convinced he's going to retire. Like it seems like he is. I'd say he's more likely to retire than Travis Kelsey. But if he does want to play again, it's not going to be in Pittsburgh. It just makes no
No,
sense.
because the only way he'd be if the only way he'd be back in Pittsburgh if Tomlin was there. With Tomlin out,
Exactly.
like he's not. Yeah.
Exactly. Like he's not going to be back in Pittsburgh. I think he's just going to retire. Like I think at this point, like bro, like do you really think you're going to be better next year? No. Do you think you're going to be the same? Maybe, but probably not. And at that point, like where's he going to go? Like does he get
The
like
team that
go back
I've
to the
seen
Jets?
is
Like no.
No, the Vikings. Like obviously
Nah.
he's better than JJ McCarthy and Carson Wentz, but like what's the point? You know what I mean? Like what's the like this year
Yeah,
for Aaron Rodgers, it was a respectable season. Is that fair to say? Like it was a
it was it wasn't a disaster. I'll give it that. Not a disaster. He won the division 110 games. So like credit
yeah.
to him.
And like he swept the Ravens. He went into Detroit and won a game there. His numbers were fine. His box score numbers were fine. He made the playoffs. Like this wasn't like the Jets. You know what I mean? This wasn't like him retiring after the Jets last year. It was a respectable season. He was in the playoffs again. Obviously, it was a tough matchup against that Texans defense. just overmatched. They were just the Steelers this year. They were an issue, a theme with them, like against bad teams and bad defenses. They played well. They moved the ball. Rodgers usually had his best games then. They were completely just outclassed against any really good defense they faced. They went 1-6 against playoff teams this year, including last night. So if you're Aaron Rodgers, like there's not much left to prove. You made the playoffs. You won the division. You know, you won a de facto playoff game against the Ravens. Like that's probably, if he retires, like that's probably the last great moment of his career. Was that pass to Calvin Austin to win that game against Baltimore. Um, so like I said, like I just don't see a point of him playing next year. And I get why he played this year because I don't think any player of his caliber would want your last year to be a 5-12 season on the worst franchise in the NFL. Like he went to a team, you know, they won, like I said, they won 10 games, they had a respectable season. You know, they got hot towards the playoffs. They won 4 of the last 5 games to get in. But I just think it was the last ride for he and Tomlin. I think he retires. I think Tomlin goes and works at Fox or Prime Video or somewhere. And I just think it's the end of the road for both of them. I think the Texans ended it for both those guys. So it was fun to watch, you know, 2 Hall of Famers at their respective positions do one last season together. Maybe Rodgers does like the Philip Rivers thing where like if someone gets hurt, he comes in and tries to save the day. Who knows? But I just think it's best if he goes away. And, you know, like I said, a fine final season. Is that fair to say? Like it was a final season that's not worth nothing to sniff at, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Like again, where would he go? Like Vikings make no sense because like if they bring in Rodgers, like you're pretty much done with McCarthy, and I think they need to give McCarthy another year. So the
Mhm.
next quarterback the Vikings bring in to compete with him needs to be like not as big of a name as Rodgers,
Yeah.
like almost like
Like
not
every other
maybe
team that needs a quarterback sucks. Like that's the problem. Like the
yeah
Cardinals, what's the point? Like you know what I mean? Like the Dolphins, what's the point? You know what I mean? Like the only team that I look at and says like maybe is Indianapolis because Daniel Jones is coming back from Achilles. You're indoors. You have a good offensive coach. But like, do you really want to face that defense twice a year next year? Like, I don't think so. So,
yeah
um,
I agree.
it will.
I
It
think
once came out for.
the only scenario like maybe like he doesn't officially retire, just goes unsigned. But like
Mhm.
maybe the team that loses a quarterback, like in training camp, he just signs
Yeah,
there. Like maybe
yeah,
if
yeah.
like a good team that is respectable but doesn't have a real backup, like loses a quarterback for that might be out for like the first 2 months, and they just bring in Aaron Rodgers to save the day because he's
Yeah.
experienced, but like he doesn't want to go through like a long summer. But
Mhm.
that might be
And
it. Like if he doesn't retire, like
yeah, and
that's the only scenario.
he's still a starting caliber quarterback. He's a top 32 quarterback in the league. I probably like a top 20 quarterback in the league still. But like I said, 42 years old, you know, if this was it, incredible career, top 5 quarterback of all time in my opinion, 4-time MVP. And when you look at the all-time great quarterbacks, a lot of their last games are really really bad. Tom Brady. Everyone says, "Oh, Tom Brady's end of his career was so good." We'll wrap here shortly. Tom Brady was down 31-0 to the Mike McCarthy Cowboys in his last game. Joe Montana lost in the wild card round, just like Rodgers did. Dan Marino has the worst one, 62-7. It was he and Jimmy Johnson's last game together. Drew Brees, we all saw that one. He threw 3 interceptions in that loss to the Buccaneers in 2020. Brett Favre, you know this, Lucas. He was on that awful Vikings team in 2010. Gets knocked out, is laying down on the turf in Minnesota's College Stadium because the dome collapsed. Steve Young was
CCFA,
knocked
yeah.
yeah, Steve Young was knocked out of his last game. Johnny Unitas was shut out in his last game. Big Ben, we saw that one up close. The only quarterbacks to really go out on top were John Elway and Peyton Manning. And even Manning, like he was horrible in that game. They just won because of their defense. So it doesn't always end well. I'm fully prepared for Patrick Mahomes' last game to, to be a 4 interception blowout loss in the wild card. It just happens. It's very rare for the great player to go out on top. Hell, Travis Kelsey's last game might be the worst played football game in NFL history in Las Vegas. So, and he had 2 catches for 12 yards from Chris Oladokin and Shane Buechele. You know, it just happens. And Rodgers, like, look, he got them into the playoffs with those heroics against Baltimore. I loved watching him play. And if it was an honor to watch both he and Mike Tomlin, 2 legends. Um, one last ride to the playoffs, and it just didn't go their way last night. So that about wraps it up. Lucas and I will be back tomorrow to preview what looks like a really exciting divisional round. Like I said, Bills, Broncos, Seahawks, Niners, Bears, Rams, and of course, Patriots, Texans. We'll preview it all. We'll give our predictions to who advances to Championship Sunday. Lucas, do you have any parting thoughts before we disperse?
I do not. I gave my thoughts on the teams that were eliminated, and I'll give more thoughts on the team that won tomorrow.
Yes. And of course, we gave our thoughts on both sides. We're excited to do so. All right. So, Lucas, thanks a lot, and we will see you tomorrow. We'll wrap it up right now.